This is Channel 2 News, coverage you can count on.
The yeas are 340, the nays are 72. The bill is passed without objection. A motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
Nevada lawmakers are weighing in after the House of Representatives passed a bill to revive the Yucca Mountain Nuclear Waste Repository. And that story tops Channel 2 News at 5 o'clock. Despite all of Nevada's representatives opposing this bill, it passed handily, 340 to 72. I'm Kristen Remington.
And I'm Landon Miller. Thank you for joining us tonight. We have team coverage of the Yucca legislation. Paul Nelson is live at the newsroom after speaking with Nevada senators opposed to the legislation and a Nye County commissioner who is actually in favor of it.
But let's begin with Chris Buckley here in the studio with more on where this could go and safety behind getting waste there.
Crispin, experts spoke to today believe moving the waste is relatively safe, but of course, safety is always a relative term. So Yucca Mountain is in the middle of the desert. It was chosen for its remote location and climate. Now, the Department of Energy runs the Nevada Test and Training Range. That's all this blue area. Inside that, the test site itself, that's in yellow, and in black, this arrow is pointing to Yucca Mountain. So that's where this nuclear waste would end up, right here. One major concern for critics is transporting it safely.
When things are on a site protected, there's not much hazard there, but anything can happen when things are transported. So the major hazards start happening when you start transporting it.
Spent nuclear waste for decades. It's put in canisters and then it's transported in casks that are 8 to 10 inches thick. Those are made of lead, stainless steel, and other materials to shield the surroundings from radiation, contain the fuel in case of an accident, and prevent a runaway nuclear reaction. So these casks are meant to make things stable, even in the case of a crash or of a fire.
Even if the fuel were to get heated up, that doesn't cause a big problem. The problem would be if, say, a seal were to reach a limit temperature, then it might leak. So there might be some loss in containment.
Okay, which means a nuclear waste spill?
That's something that could happen. Very unlikely, but it could happen.
Now, these containers would be shipped to Yucca Mountain most likely by rail. That's the most common way, and placed in these deep underground tunnels that have been bored there. The half-life of a lot of this radioactive material is actually tens of thousands of years. Now, there is the possibility it can be reprocessed, and that cuts the time to just hundreds of years. But there's a lot of variables and unknowns still associated with this project. Of course, a lot of politics involved, and at this point, nothing is set in stone. Covering the story live in the studio, Chris Buckley, Channel 2 News.
All right, Chris, thanks for breaking that all down for us. And Nevada's leaders say they'll continue to fight against Yucca Mountain, saying it is a threat to public safety and a waste of tax dollars.
Paul Nelson has that part of our coverage. And Paul, what are our senators saying tonight?
Yeah, Landon, both of them say the Senate is united against Yucca Mountain and that the bill is dead on arrival. In fact, they say it won't even get a vote. Storing nuclear waste in our state has always been controversial, but some who live closest to the facility say the project is safe and long overdue.
The fight over storing nuclear waste in the desert of Nye County is in its 4th decade, and it'll continue for much longer if Nevada's federal leaders have anything to say about it.
Not only will I place a hold on the bill now that it has passed the House, I will also object to the motion to proceed to the bill.
$15 billion have already gone into Yucca Mountain, and Heller says up to $100 billion more could be spent over the lifespan of the project. But the biggest concern is public safety.
It's a threat not only to the safety and health of 70% of our population in Nevada that live in southern Nevada, but it's not scientifically sound.
Congressman Mark Amodei voted against the bill, but did offer an amendment that he says would give Nevada a seat at the table, but was denied. His proposal would prioritize transportation planning, nuclear research at Nevada's universities, and would clean up sites that were contaminated by the federal government. In a statement, he said, quote, "If I'm only given a piece of legislation which designates Nevada as the nation's nuclear landfill, I am a no. Accordingly, I'm a no." But some Nye County officials are in favor of the nuclear repository, saying it would create about 1,000 construction jobs and about 1,000 more permanent ones.
This will be a public works project that would rival the Hoover Dam. We're talking multi-generational, multi-billion-dollar project.
Shinhofen lives just 30 miles from Yucca Mountain. He says Nevada's leaders are choosing political science over nuclear science, since the waste would be in a solid form that cannot explode.
And we have transported this stuff around this country for over 60 years. There has never been a spill of material. So pretty confident it can be shipped and handled safely.
Schinhofen says he expects Yucca Mountain eventually will happen one way or the other, possibly as a reprocessing and recycling facility. Our senators say the states that create the waste should manage it or send it to a state that wants it. Covering the big story live in the newsroom, Paul Nelson, Channel 2 News.